Right now, you feel like your brain is a prison. Every thought tells you that you're behind, that you're worthless, or that you're failing. Like everyone else is moving forward while you're stuck in the same dark loop. I know how it feels because I've been there and I've managed to escape. But I promise you this. The way out of your dark place, brother, does exist. And I promise you that if you watch this 7, 8 minute video, I will teach it to you. Because in this video, I'll show you the exact steps that I used to escape my dark hole where I was chronically anorexic, diagnosed depressed, multiple therapists, on the verge of ending it all. And now I'm living a life that I would at least say is pretty good. So let's get started. For you to understand what I'm about to talk about in this video, I want you to know my story. So I actually grew up a pretty social kid. I come from parents who both are naturally extroverted. My mom loves to party. My dad especially loves to party. And I am their kid. And so naturally, when I was young, I was a pretty extroverted kid. I used to like to go out a lot. I used to play sports. I used to be a rough kid that just spent all his time outside. But as I got older and I got introduced to social media and all of its negativities, and I got introduced to video games and I got hooked on video games, and I got introduced, the worst of all, to adult content, plus the personal and social issues I was having in my life. I was being bullied in school. I was having terrible family drama. At one point, we had a family therapist. We had CPS show up at our door 2 times within a year. All of this utterly destroyed the happy-go-lucky social kid that I was and made me chronically stressed, afraid of everyone, afraid of everything, and made it so that all I wanted to do all day was stay inside, rot away, do jack shit, and just feel terrible about myself. But in 8th to ninth grade, I in 8th to ninth grade, it got the worst. So bad that I genuinely remember at one point almost ending it all. I remember one day I've developed a habit throughout the course of 8th grade of taking a bunch of PM pills. Video's gonna get dark. PM pills that, you take typically for migraines or headaches, but I would take them because they would put me right to sleep. And at one point, I was sleeping 12 to 14 hours every single day. And one day, I took 3 or 4 of them at once, which is way over what you're supposed to do in one sitting, let alone, one entire day. And I had a couple more under my bed for when I would wake up. I would just take more again. But when I woke up and went to use the bathroom, my mom found them. And seeing the hurt, the pain on her face, made me ask myself a question. Do I want to continue to blame the world and blame my story and blame the circumstances and blame everyone else for my problems and how I feel? Or do I want to wake up and actually get my shit together, point the finger and give the power to myself and go out there and fix my life? Thankfully, I chose option number two. And that's the first step of changing your life and getting yourself out of this dark hole. The first step is ultimately recognizing where you're at. You can't sit there and lie to yourself like you've been doing for so long. Let me go back a little. That whole process, from that whole process, I learned 5 crucial steps that I've been using in my life any single time I get to any rut, whether it be worse than that, a small rut, a big rut, whatever cause, whatever reason, these 5 steps always work. And the first step you have to take is exactly what I did in 8th grade when I asked myself that question. And that is, you have to realize the situation you're actually in. Listen, I don't just mean sitting there and recognizing that your life is shit and that you're miserable and that everything sucks and that you're not happy with where you are. We can all do that. What I mean is, I need you to truly recognize your condition. Recognize that you do have a bad mental health. You do have completely zero impulse control and zero ability to control yourself. You do have shit friends. You do have drug addictions. You do have general addictions. You are addicted to that adult content. You are addicted to social media. You are addicted to the video games. You are addicted to doing nothing all day. And you are a destructive person. It hurts to say, to, kind of think of ourselves in such a dark light, but that is exactly who you are. I mean, let me ask you a question. Do you think that a person who is not destructive would be depressed, would make themselves socially anxious, would literally do the habits that actively destroy them? Or do you think that someone who's non-destructive, who is a productive person and actually treats themselves with care, would be going to the gym, quitting their addictions, getting in better shape, looking better, getting closer to God, doing better work, and all of that? The answer is pretty obvious, right? Now, the second step after you recognize your condition might sound counterintuitive, but it's to not victim blame. You cannot blame everything on other people. Now, step number two is counterintuitive, but it's to not victimize yourself. You may have a temptation to sit there and think, oh, yeah, I hate my life. I hate how I feel. I hate where I am. And then sit there and complain about your condition now that you've recognized it. But you actually have to do the exact opposite. You have to sit there and look at yourself and realize that, yeah, your life sucks. Yeah, your mental health is terrible. Yeah, you have bad habits, you have bad addictions, but it's your fault. I didn't create those conditions. I didn't create those habits for you. God certainly didn't give you those habits or approve of those habits. Your parents aren't the ones that control you. Your friends don't control you. Nobody gets you to wake up and search up some adult content. Nobody gets you to wake up and scroll through social media for 5 hours. Nobody gets you to stay up binge eating snacks. You get yourself to do that. Until you recognize your condition, that's your fault. But it also means it's your responsibility and you have the power to fix it. Now, let's actually get into some of the actionable steps of changing your life. The first step is something I call stacking. Tell me when to stop, by the way. Okay? So, stacking is a concept that's been studied by research all the time. And the basic idea is this: you will not be able to change your life by trying to take big, actionable steps at first. You're all the way behind. You're like the last person in the race. And so, you're not going to be able to go to number one instantly. Instead, you have to beat everyone else on that way to number one. And that's where stacking kind of comes in. The whole point of stacking is that you take small, actionable steps to changing your life before you get to the big actionable steps. They're easy, they're manageable. You know you can do them, but at the same time, they do make a quantifiable difference in your life. Think, for example, waking up at the same time every single day, making your bed at the same time every single day when you wake up. Think brushing your teeth every morning and every night, because if you're really down bad in life like I was, you probably don't do that. Think going to the gym for 20 minutes every single day. Think maybe going outside for 10 minutes. Identify, sit down, and write as many little actionable steps you can take to changing your life. Write them down and accomplish them. And then we can move on to step number 4. Now, the fourth step is only possible once you have completed the third and got a couple of your first small wins and started stacking some of your wins. The reason that is because once you start stacking 10, 20, 30 small but quantifiable changes in your life, what happens is that you have a record that you could look at. You know that you're a different person, that you're improving, and that you're making progress. I remember my first couple of wins, and I remember exactly how they led to step number 4, which we will talk about in a second. I got introduced to self-improvement through Hamza Ahmed at about 13 or 14 years old. And about a lot of his routines were pretty damn rough, but I knew I wasn't capable of implementing half of it. And so I started small. I remember one of my first routines was just simply to take a cold shower every morning, to wake up at 6 a.m., to go to the gym after school, and to journal before I go to bed. That was like my first ever self-improvement routine. I would wake up at 6 a.m., I would take a cold shower, I would go to school. The school had a gym, I would work out there. I'd come back home, I would journal. And I did try to stay off the internet a bit. I did get off video games because at that point I just was sick and tired of them. I did try to stay off adult content with varying success at that point in my life. I tried to improve on the big things, but I didn't think about it too much. Instead, I started stacking the little things. By journaling, I understood my mind better. By taking cold showers, I built that initial first discipline, and I was able to tell myself that I'm capable of doing the things I say I want to do. By going to the gym, I built some initial confidence. I was 89 pounds. I got up to like 105, 110, which is still crazy skinny, but it's pretty good progress. It's about 25 pounds gained. By doing all of this, I got my first couple of wins. And that's when I was ready for a true life change. And that's where step 4 comes in. The way you start to truly change your life and you truly start to get out of the dark place you're in is by taking radical action. And I mean that in a very specific way. I don't mean the radical action that you're thinking of that you see on Instagram, these 3-hour workouts or these 8-hour deep work sessions or these ice plunges, all this radical discipline that is not really discipline at all. It's just suffering for the sake of suffering, for the sake of clicks. What I mean is the radical action that psychologically truly changes your life. I'm talking about the true radical action that psychologically and scientifically will change your life. For example, your environment, whether that be your social environment, i.e., the people you hang around, whether that be your physical environment, i.e., your room and how it is organized and set up, whether that be your digital environment, your algorithms, your recommendations, and the things you see online, or whether that be your mental environment, the thoughts that pop up in your head and how much attention you give to them. Radical action doesn't have to be suffering for the sake of suffering. Radical action should be the action that might be hard at first, but gives you a unimaginable amount of ease later in your life. And so changing your environment and cleaning up your room is hard at first, but when you do it, doing the other things you have to do is easy. Cleaning up your desk is hard at first, but then working after is easy. Here?
Yeah, because you're gonna keep walking and then you're gonna go.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop at one point. Uh, Cutting off bad friends who do the addictions you're addicted to, like porn or smoking or anything you're trying to quit, might be hard at first. But when you do it, quitting those addictions becomes so much more easier. When I say radical action, I don't mean, again, to do things you actually can't manage. I mean changing things in your life that influence you, your energy levels, and your mindset once and getting a lifetime of reward from it. For example, one thing I did in my life to take radical action is that I cut out all junk food from my life and more specifically my house. I did not have any junk food in my house. And so that made dieting very easy. Another example, I cut out friends that at the time I thought were influencing me to do things I no longer wanted to do. And while that was hard, that made things really fucking easy. Another example, I organized my desk and my house in a way where when I wake up, the easiest thing to do is pray or go to work or get ready to go to the gym, not sit there and scroll. And that was hard, but that made things incredibly easy. The point is, if you want to change your life, don't try to be the big macho guy that's super disciplined and doing all the hard things. Just make the hard things easy. And then the last step, my brother, is a very simple step, but it's the most important step ever. You see, about a year ago, after 4 years of decent self improvement success, I did get into another one of these dark and lonely ruts. But I did something. I changed something in my life. So profound, yet so simple. And my life will never be the same. And every time I get into one of these ruts or I get into a dark place mentally, which, believe it or not, happens a fair amount of times, I can lean on this thing and I'll know I'll be okay. I hope you know the thing I'm talking about. See, this world is not no accident, and you're not alone, and you're certainly not the most powerful thing out there. There is a God out there, a God who loves you, a God who created you, a God who has an infinite purpose for you, a God who ordered the world and ordered your life to your benefit, to your salvation. And He's waiting for you to lean on Him. It's a little unstraightened.
It's gonna move.
Okay. This God is, of course, our Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ. But what's important is that this God has a body. This God has a church. And this church is there for you. When I was going through my dark rut a year ago, I remember sitting down with my wife and my younger brother. My younger brother is an Orthodox Christian who plans on being a monk, and he's been Orthodox for 2 years or 3 years more than me. And so I knew that if I had anyone to talk to this about, it'd be him. And I sat him down with me and my wife, and I talked to him about where we were, what we wanted to do, how we wanted to get married one day, build a family, live a traditional, natural life. And I tried to tell him to convince me to join this church. But instead of doing that, he just told me, go to a service, go to an Orthodox service, and that's all the convincing that you will need. And so I did it. And immediately after the service, I knew what I had to do. I knew I had to become an Orthodox Christian. And so I got baptized. And so I got educated. I became a catechumen. And I was baptized on our Easter. And what I can tell you is that being Orthodox has given me a strength and a connection with God that I did not think was even possible. So I'm going to do the same thing my brother did. I'm going to invite you to go to an Orthodox service. But not only to go to an Orthodox service, but to remember that when you're in these dark ruts, you have a God that you can lean and pray to. That's why step number 5 is build an active spiritual life. Because an active spiritual life is truly the only way you will ever feel happy. You can have a great body, you can have a great mind, you can have a great social circle, but if you do not have God, if you do not have a church, if you are not connected to Christ, you'll never really fix your life. So if you really want to get out of this dark hole you're in, if you really want to change your life, then promise me this. You will stop blaming other people. You will take accountability for where you are. You will stack small wins to change your life and take steps forward. You will radically change your environment and the people you hang out with and the way your house and everything is set up so that you can make being disciplined and productive easier. And you will connect with God. If you can do that, I promise you, you will change your life forever. Peace out.
Why did my poem bomb?
And if you can do that, I promise you, you will change your life. Peace out.
Okay.